Hey y'all. So, over this weekend, it happened. My mother-in-law is gone, and I don't know, it happened really fast. Everything was so fast. I think it was August 18th we found out that she was sick, and it was October 16th that she passed. And so, it's just crazy because she was walking around fine. Like back in September, middle of September, she was good. And so, it just shows you, how fleeting life really is. So yeah, the morning it happened, it was about 8, and Diglett comes in and he's bawling and he tells me he's gone. And I get up and I hug him and tell him it's alright to cry and I'm sorry and, all the things that you tell someone who's lost a loved one. And during, all the falling action, I suppose you could call it, after she had gone, it was interesting because I was trying to kind of tap into the emotion of the moment, because it's definitely palpable. You can feel it. It's heavy. And I tried to imagine, if I had lost my mom, like how would that feel? I tried to put myself in Diglett's shoes. I tried very fucking hard. I tried. But it's just, I don't know. I guess it's something that's not really within my power. I'm not too good at empathy, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with something I was talking about in one of my older videos about emotions versus feelings and your affect and kind of the cascade of physiological responses in your emotions that cause your feelings and the change in your affect. I think these things go hand in hand. And so I was talking about having an emotional memory based on your feelings from prior experiences and the emotions that you feel during those experiences. And I think another component of that is emotional imagination and empathy. I think those things are really similar. And there is a very distinct difference between memory and imagination, but I feel like they kind of occupy the same space. Because oftentimes you can have something that you imagined become a memory. Like you'll confuse yourself into thinking this thing actually happened when it was just something that you imagined. And the difference is with your memory, these are things that actually happen, things that you can grasp onto. With your imagination, it's kind of based on a combination of your memory and your experiences and kind of filling in the gaps with your intuition, I suppose. But I think I'm a person that doesn't have a high capacity for kind of banking an emotional memory, and that affects my ability to have an emotional imagination. I don't really have my imagination is pretty vivid, but it's not expansive. It's pretty fucking dull. I'm not a very imaginative person, but my imagination runs deep, if that makes sense. So I often have times where I do confuse things that I've imagined for my memory because it was so vivid. And when I was younger, I would kind of condition myself to cry when other people were crying because I wanted to seem normal, I wanted to fit in. And as time has gone on, I've come to the realization that it's normal. I'm normal. It's okay not to be a person who cries when everyone else is sad. I think it's better to be true to yourself and to how you feel more than, following what others do in order to blend in. And, I talk about blending in a lot. But I think for this in particular, this situation in particular, when you can't fake it, don't fake it. Because I think you could end up in a less than comfortable situation. And I'm not a person that is without tact, even though there are things that I don't entirely connect to. I am aware of the ways that you should respond in situations like this. And so I'm not a person that isn't capable of being supportive. It's just something that doesn't entirely come naturally to me. And so it's something that I've had to develop over time. But I had a cousin who died maybe a year ago, a couple years ago, I can't quite remember, but she died of liver cancer as well. And she had gone into remission, I think, twice or three times, and it finally, overtook her. And it was a whole issue with the insurance, and she had turned 26 and no longer had her parents' insurance, and she might still be alive had she had the insurance to take care of, because she had a skin cancer. She had a mole, and she needed to get that removed, and she didn't have the money to get it removed, and it got worse, and it spread to her liver. And so, I mean, who can say that she'd still be around, but it definitely would have prolonged her life. So the day before she died, we're all together. We come to the hospice room that she's in, and it's my family, my immediate family, and some extended family. Her parents, her brother were in there, and they had been by her bedside, the entire time, and they were tired, they were exhausted. And so it was kind of, our turn to kind of hold her hand and take on the burden a little bit. And I found it interesting that upon entering the room, everyone was very, smiling and supportive, and within 20 minutes, people started filing out. My dad was in the room for 20 minutes and he left. And I was, a bit annoyed that I was there. I was bored. And I mean, not to sound like an edgelord, but I was bored and I didn't want to be there, but I decided to go along because I felt like it was a good thing to do. And so I could have been bored in the room helping, or bored in another room not helping at all. And I figured being there with her was probably the best thing to do. Maybe I'm being naive and thinking that because your family member is suffering that you should just ignore or overcome your fear of death, your discomfort with death. Or maybe it's because I don't really connect to emotions. I don't feel them as intensely or the same way as other people do. But I know that compassion and devotion to another person and empathy are what keep people who aren't schizoid at the bedside of loved ones who are dying. I think she realizes, that she is in a dire situation, that her life is coming to an end. And, it's literally a drop in a sea of time for my family to, spend with her, supporting her, helping her move along to the next, threshold, so to speak. I don't know. I was just kind of annoyed with that they came to help, and because they were uncomfortable, they disengaged. And I won't say that they abandoned her, but they left the room. They weren't there. They weren't doing what they had come to do. And so I was very annoyed with my family for doing that, because I stayed in there the entire time. Not to say that they needed to do that, because I realized that it is uncomfortable, and if you need to cry, get it out, come back, get back to being supportive. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get disengaging because you fear death, because it makes you uncomfortable. I bet she was feeling very uncomfortable. I bet she would have given a whole lot to be able to walk out of that room with you and leave the cancer in the bed. But she can't do that. And I feel like, if you're coming to help, then help. Don't fuck around. But yeah, I was just really annoyed by that. And I don't know, people here, they were a lot more supportive. They were a lot more immersed in supporting my mother-in-law as she's dying. Yeah, that's been kind of my weird stream of conscious ramble about death. I mean, I know I've talked about death, but that was my own death when I had a near-death experience. But this is more the emotional side of it, where you're one of the people that are left in the wake of someone dying. The things here are hectic, reasonably so. We're planning the funeral and all that stuff, and that's going to be this weekend. I've started doing work. I am on leave, but I've started getting files to do. I do like maybe 5 hours of work a day, so it's not a whole lot, but things are moving along. So I'll talk to y'all later.